Welcome back. You are now watching video 5 of my presentation, The Ignorance of Black and White Supremacy, titled The Ignorance of Black and White Supremacy Exposed. Again, if you did not watch video 1 to 4 of this presentation, I strongly suggest that you please do so first. By so doing, I think you may better appreciate and possibly understand the content and my reason for all the details. And you can also criticize it and, prove all things for yourself. So for your information, and as I have mentioned earlier, the English word slavery and its etymology is European, and not to in any way minimize or exclude the practice of slavery elsewhere and among all other races, but slavery was something that was practiced with no lesser dire consequences in Europe, among Europeans, long before the transatlantic slave trade in the 14th century. And again, we need not look very far, but to a good English dictionary to see the evidence and the proof of this fact. According to the Living Webster's Encyclopedic Dictionary of the English Language, the word slave is derived from the word Slav, S-L-A-V, and the Slavic people, S-L-A-V-I-C people. I want you to please note that it is not derived from the continent of Africa, not our South America or the West Indies, but from the word Slav and the Slavic people. Now, please don't get me wrong, or please don't misinterpret or misconstrue what I am saying here. I am not saying or implying that slavery did not exist in Africa and among fellow Africans, and that some Africans were not held in captivity and forced to work against their will by their fellow Africans. No, not at all. Nor am I implying or suggesting that all our women were queens and princesses and kings and princes, that were all living free and lofty lives, running around in golden shoes in Africa prior to the invasion of the Europeans and Arabs, as I have heard many people say, and even put in their songs. That is not what I am saying or implying, and from my perspective, that is also not logical, practical, or true. For as natural native earthly humans, we are all the victims of the slavery system, the invasion of the alien Satan. Slavery system, the global slavery system that was brought here as established here by the alien invader Satan. I am pointing out the fact that slavery existed in Europe also. And who are these European people from which the word slave is derived? From the Living Webster's Encyclopedic Dictionary of the English Language, I quote, Slav, of, pertaining to, or of a race of people, or characteristic of the Slav. Slavic, noun, one of the race of people widely spread over Eastern, Southeastern, and Central Europe, including the Russians and the Ruthenians, Eastern Slavs, the Bulgars, the Serbs, Croats, Slovenians, Slovenese, Southern Slavs, and the Poles, the Czechs, Moravians, Slovaks, Western Slavs, unquote. So, from this we may summarize that from a European historical fact and perspective, slaves or servitude is, or if you prefer, slavery or servitude was characteristic of the Slavs or the Slavic people. And who were the Slavic people then, and who are the Slavic people today? Well, according to the same dictionary, and from the same quote that I have just read, and if my reading and interpretation is at all correct, they are one of the race of people widely spread over Eastern, Southeastern, and Central Europe. Please note, not Eastern, Southeastern, and Central Africa, but Eastern, Southeastern, and Central Europe, which include the Russians, the Ruthenians, the Eastern Slavs, the Bulgars or the Bulgarians, the Serbs or the Serbians, the Croats or Croatian, the Slovenians, the Slovenese, the Southern Slavs, and the Pole or the Polish people, Czechs, Czechoslovakians, the Moravians, Slovaks, Western Slavs. They were all at one time the victims of slavery. According to this same dictionary, a slave is a Slav. And I quote, slave, a Slav, meaning, slave, a Slav. Many Slavs having been reduced to slavery by Germanic conquerors, unquote. So not only was it customary in Africa and other cultures around the world for conquering tribes to enslave their captives and prisoners and even make wives and concubines of them, but it was also a practice that was very common in Europe as well. So again, let me repeat this quote. According to the same dictionary, a slave is a Slav, or the Slavic people, and I quote, slave, a Slav, many Slavs having been reduced to slavery by Germanic conquerors, unquote. Please note, reduced to slavery by who? The Germans or Germanic conquerors. And by the way, do you know or have you any idea whatsoever as to who are the ancestors and relatives of the British slave masters along with their heirs and successors today? I think you may want to suss or source that for yourselves, if at all it is of any interest to you. My question to you, my viewers and my fellow African brothers and sisters and critics alike, are as follows. Why were we not taught these truths, these facts about slavery in school? Why are we not teaching our children today these truths ourselves, especially if we really know it? Why are we continuing to allow the system, the educational system and institutions and your leaders to continue inculcating the minds of our children with doctrines, ideologies, and feelings of inferiority complexes and less worth, by having them think and believe that the word slave and the incidents of slavery is identified to Africans and the European transatlantic slave trade alone, and that their African ancestors are the only people that were and that are the victims of slavery. Why are we, as a race of people, continuing to accept, believe, embrace, and perpetuate Satan's lies and his systems, religions, and their many false and denigrating doctrines and ideologies which teach that we, the African race, are cursed to a life of servitude, a life of slavery and subordination, a life of subhuman bondage to all other races of people in this, all other races of people on this our planet Earth? When the evidence shows that since the invasion of Satan and his company of devils upon our planet Earth, all races of people from our natural native earthly human race on this planet have been subject to his political and slavery economic system and are being enslaved. Why are we, Africans, afraid to teach or remind other races of people, particularly European Caucasians, that are either ignorant of their own history or those that are conveniently choosing to ignore and forget their own history, their own past slavery, but at the same time they look at us Africans as if looking down on us with scorn, with disgust, with contempt, with feelings of superiority, etc., thereby creating the impressions as if they and their history is white, is pure, is unblemished, as if they have no checkered past. Why are most, if not all, of your self-proclaimed black leaders, whether they are religious, political, civil rights, human rights, revolutionaries and activists, etc., why are they acting as if they have already copyrighted the word black, slave and slavery, and as if these words belong exclusively, these words and these experiences belong exclusively to us Africans, erroneously and oftentimes contemptuously called black people? I submit that they have and they are all being deceived. This is the end of video 5, so please switch to video 6 now or at your convenience and join me for the continuation of this presentation titled "The Ignorance of White and Black Supremacy Exposed." It gets better.